going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. And let's get right into it. So, you all know that I'm fascinated with two things. The 1990-91 season and the 98-99 lockout season. I'll get to those. I'll get to the 98-99 lockout topic in a minute. Not going to talk about 1990-91. But I do want to talk about the early 90s Lakers. Everybody remembers the great Laker teams of Wilt, Wilt West, Baylor, Magic, Kareem, Worthy, AC, Byron Scott. Everybody remembers those teams. But the one team that I am intrigued by was the 92-93 team. That team was 39-43. Randy Funn was the head coach. And I mentioned this in one of my videos back. They actually had the Phoenix Suns. They had the Phoenix Suns beat in the first round of the playoffs. They won the first two games. And then James Worthy missed a jumper. Missed a series clinching jumper in game 3. Suns won. They eventually won in 5 games. And that was one of the most intriguing teams because this team was just so out of sync. The team was just so out of sync offensively, defensively, that Jerry West, who was that Jerry West just was scratching his head and was like, this is a tough team to figure out because they were weird, They were out of sync some nights, barely getting by on others. And that's why Jerry West said this is a tough team to figure out. As a result, they went 39-43. But yeah, that's one of the more intriguing teams. And I would say the 95 Rockets. The 95 Rockets. The first 6 seed ever to win a championship, okay? Which meant they started each series in the playoffs on the road. Utah, Phoenix, San Antonio. The Rockets actually won the first 9 games of the 94-95 season. Then reality set in that they actually had to defend their title. And they sputtered along the way. They made the midseason trade for Clyde Drexler. Not everybody was accepting of the trade. If you watch the documentary Clutch City, not everybody was welcoming because the Rockets were tight with OT. Who is OT? Otis Thorpe. They were tight. He was tight with all of his teammates. And all of a sudden Clyde Drexler comes in, who they didn't trust. And Clyde Drexler pretty much took Vernon Maxwell's minutes. And after game 1, they sent Vernon Maxwell home for the rest of the playoffs. And of course, they won in 5 games against Utah. The game-winning three-pointer, series-winning three-pointer by Mario Alley, where he did to Joe Klein. And then the San Antonio series where David Robinson accepted the MVP in front of Hakeem Olajuwon. We all know how that went. We all know how that went. The Houston Rockets, they ended up sweeping the Magic in 4 straight. The 98-99 lockout season. I wanted to touch on the New Jersey Nets for a second. So Coach Cal, Kentucky Coach Cal, came to the Nets in 1996. Hired by the Nets in 1996, and by 1998 he had him back in the playoffs. The Nets had made the playoffs for 3 straight years, 92, 93, 94, but missed 95, 96, and 97. Coach Cal comes in and gets them back into the playoffs by 1998. And they lose a first-round series to the Chicago Bulls. Sweep. But it was a improvement. Then the 98-99 lockout happened. They started the season 3-17. And they made a trade for Stephon Marbury. I still remember that. It was reported that Garnett and Stephon Marbury did not get along. Garnett and Stephon Marbury did not get along in Minnesota. So Minnesota traded Marbury for Cassell, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So the day after they made the trade for Marbury, they lost 102-76 to the Miami Heat. I remember that game because I watched it. I watched that game. They lost 102-76 to the Miami Heat. In Stephon Marbury's first game as a New Jersey Net. They lost 102-76. And that brought their record to 3-17. And what do you know? Coach Cal was hired. Jason Williams, that proved to be Jason Williams his last season. Not Sacramento J. Will, but the New Jersey Nets J. Will. Proved to be his last season. Broke his leg and never played another game in the NBA ever again. I can remember there was a 1998 cover of Slam magazine, and it said Nets champs by 2001. Bank on it. I guess somebody forgot to tell the San Antonio Spurs and the Los Angeles Lakers that. I guess they didn't get them in ammo. Anyway. But yeah, you had to play 50 games in 90 nights, 90 days / nights. 50 games in 90 days. And they say it's a marathon, not a sprint. 98-99 was like a hard sprint. It was like a hard sprint. That's what it was like. The players were talking about it. Some of the players, they said injuries were up. I just mentioned Jason Williams' career-ending leg injury. Rafe LaFrance, a rookie for the Denver Nuggets, he tore his knee 12 games into the season. Chris Childs for the New York Knicks, he just says because of the grueling schedule, his legs were just shot. He had no legs. So what he would do is, when the Knicks got into another city, he would actually he would usually go out to a dinner, but he didn't. He would just sit in the put his legs in ice, order room service, and sit in ice for an hour. And I remember trainers saying that there really was no recovery. The only recovery you had was Gatorade and water. That was the only real recovery that you had. So, the scoring was down all around the league. I believe the league average that year was 91.4 points per game. Yeah. 91.4 points per game. NBA players were completely out of shape. Antoine Walker says he wasn't in shape. And when the players came back in January of 1999, they only had 2 weeks to prepare. You had 2 weeks to get your conditioning down pat, and you had 2 weeks to try and get in NBA game shape. Nope. Like I said, it was 1998-99 was a hard sprint. It was a really hard sprint. It was such a hard sprint that I talked about this in my first video, that NBA Live 99, the video game, didn't even put her rookies in there. Now, they did have a few minor updates, roster updates. Nick Van Exel was on the Nuggets. Chris Webber was on the Sacramento Kings. Marcus Camby was on the New York Knicks. Who else? I think those are the only transactions. And I guess these transactions happened before the NBA lockout took place. And Mitch Richmond. He was on the Washington Wizards. Yeah. But NBA Live 99 used the same rosters as the 1997-98 NBA Live 98 rosters. So when you play NBA Live 99, and let's just say you're playing with Sacramento, and you have Chris Webber playing with Odin Polynice. No, doesn't make sense. So we all had to go back and make the roster updates, create the rookies. Who all remembers roster player? Who all remembers roster player as Michael Jordan? Okay. That's the funniest name for Michael Jordan, okay? Roster player. That's the funniest name for Michael Jordan, roster player. And he was number 99 as well. But yeah, like I said, 98-99 lockout season, that was a full hard sprint. That ended up being the San Antonio Spurs, not only as the NBA champs, but as a dynasty along with the Lakers. So I also want to discuss this. You know, there's always a story behind the story, okay? And when it comes to trades and professional sports, it's no different. There's always a story behind the Alonzo Mourning trade to the Miami Heat. There's a story behind the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar trade to the Lakers. And there was the story behind the Ron Harper Danny Ferry trade that took place a few games into the 1990 into the 89-90 season. Okay, so Ferry was out of Duke. He was drafted by the Clippers, and he refused to play for the Clippers. So for the 1989-90 season, he went over to play in Italy. And so Ron Harper was on the still on the Cavaliers, and word had gotten around to Coach Lenny Wilkins, Wayne Embry, and Gordon Gunn, who was the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers at that time. Word had gotten around, rumors had gotten around to them that Ron Harper was hanging out with some pretty shady people. People who really didn't have his best interests at heart. They thought he was hanging around bad people. So those were the rumors that were out there, okay? And so the first game of the 89-90 season, Michael Jordan scores 54. Ron Harper had 36. And so Wayne Embry, Lenny Wilkins, and Gordon Gunn were in a meeting. And Gordon Gunn stood up and said, I want Harper off my team. I want him off my team. And if you guys don't make the deal, if y'all won't pull the trigger on the deal, I'll do it. So I believe they went to Ron Harper and said, hey, you need to stop hanging around the people you're hanging around. Harper was like, ain't doing it. No. And so within a few games into the 89-90 season, they traded Harper to the Clippers for Ferry. From what I read, stories around the league, teams were like, what? They traded one of their best players, Ron Harper, okay? They traded one of their best players and defenders. One of the guys who played Michael Jordan the toughest. Traded him to the Clippers, okay? And let's just say it went better for the Cavaliers than it did for the Clippers. Cleveland actually ended up finishing 42-40 that year, and lost to Philly in the first round. Harper had knee injuries that year. Clippers finished 30-52. Now both the Cavaliers and the Clippers were both sorry in 1991. Cleveland got the better, but no. I wouldn't even say Cleveland even won the deal. I think the Clippers slightly win the deal. A slight win. I give the Clippers a slight edge. Because Ron Harper was a much better player than Danny Ferry. So that's why I give the edge to the Clippers. He did have knee injuries in 91, but came back and was pretty healthy. And of course, the rest is history. Wins 3 titles with the Bulls. Wins another 2 with the Lakers. 5-time NBA champion. And Ferry actually won a championship with the Spurs late in his career. So, oh yeah. So, I guess it kind of worked out for both sides. Sort of. Question mark. Y'all. That's it for Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. Stay tuned because I will be bringing y'all more content. Peace out, y'all. God bless.